Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how to prep a lot of veggies. Enough veggies to last you at least a couple of days, if not a week, just depending on how many people are eating them. And these veggies stay good in the fridge for quite a while because they are hearty veggies and they taste delicious. And of course, they are super simple. So let's get started. Okay, so first up, I have got it's like a head and a quarter of red cabbage. And then I've got about a pound and a half of mushrooms. I've got white mushrooms and cremini mushrooms. And then I've got 4 or 5 heads of broccoli. And the cabbage and the broccoli are less expensive veggies. So this veggie prep is not very expensive. So the mushrooms are expensive and then the other 2 are not. So this is on the cheaper side of veggie prep. So I'm going to start off by lining my sheet pans with some parchment paper. Now these sheet pans are huge. They cover the entire rack in my oven. So they're humongous. I will leave a link to them in the description box down below. So instead of having to put like 2 sheet pans side by side on each rack, I just have to put one of these trays on each rack, and it covers, from edge to edge in my oven. So if you've been looking for very large sheet pans, these might fit your oven. Be sure to measure your oven before you order them though, because some people have had to return them because they're too big for their oven. So first up, I'm going to go ahead and chop up this cabbage. And I'm actually just going to give it a nice coarse chop. I actually don't want to chop it too finely. I want it to stay kind of firm after I've roasted it. So as you can see, I'm just cutting it up into nice large pieces. And I'm just going to set it on my baking tray. And then for the half of cabbage, I'm going to show you a nice easy way to get that core out instead of just about taking off a finger. So cut the cabbage half into quarters, and you can see the core there. And I'm just going to cut diagonally down and kind of cut the core out. So it looks like a little Christmas tree. So set that aside into your compost bowl. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. And so that is how I have cut up my cabbage. All right, so now that I've got my cabbage cut up into these nice big chunks, I'm just going to spread it out and break up any larger chunks that are in there. And the easiest thing about this veggie prep is that I'm just going to use some garlic salt. So that's all you have to do. This veggie prep is oil-free. I'm not going to spray anything on the veggies. I'm literally just going to put them on my pan, sprinkle the garlic salt on there, and then mix it up. Now for the garlic salt, you want to make sure, let's see if I can get it to focus. You want to make sure that it has just salt and garlic, and like an anti-caking agent is totally fine. But some brands will have sugar in there. So if you're trying to avoid sugar, then make sure there's no sugar in there. So that's it. I'm just going to sprinkle this on and mix it up. And then I'm going to set it aside and chop up my next veggie. Okay, up next, I am going to chop up these mushrooms, and I have actually rinsed these off. You do not need to worry about them soaking up water. I actually watched a science show, like a food science show, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and they actually did an experiment where they weighed mushrooms before and after rinsing them off with water, and they didn't weigh any more. So they don't actually soak up any water. So feel free to take a shortcut, rinse your mushrooms with water, or if you want to be meticulous, you can use a little brush and dust off the dirt with a brush, whichever method you want to use. I rinse my mushrooms because I'm lazy and I want to do it fast. So I am just chopping up the big mushrooms into quarter pieces and the smaller ones in half. I like to keep my mushroom pieces a little bit larger because when I put them in the oven to roast, I don't want them getting too soft. So I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward through this and show you what I do with them once they are all chopped. All right, so I've got all of my mushrooms chopped, and I probably could have fit a little bit more. I just happen to have only about 1.5 pounds of mushrooms. And I'm just using the same garlic salt as before and sprinkling a generous amount. And then I'm going to mix it up, and the water that I use to rinse them off is what's going to help hold that garlic salt on them. Now I'm going to put this and the cabbage in my oven, which is preheated at 425 degrees for 25 minutes. And then I'm going to move on to the broccoli while that is cooking. All right, so while my cabbage and mushrooms are roasting, I am going to chop up this broccoli and put it back in this steamer basket that I rinsed it off in. This is the steamer basket for my 8-quart Instant Pot, which is the biggest Instant Pot that I have because I want to make a lot of broccoli, so it lasts me almost the whole week. I have my husband and my kids also eating the broccoli, so sometimes it doesn't last the whole week. So I'm just chopping off the larger part of the stem, and I'll discard that. But then the rest of the stems I like to keep because I like the taste of stems. So as long as it's not the woody part, you can totally eat it. And you can actually eat the larger parts of the stems if you peel the outside of it. The inside is totally good. I just am lazy, so I throw that part away. But anyways, I'm just going to cut these into, again, larger chunks because I don't want them getting too soggy when I steam them. But I'm going to go ahead and chop up all of these heads of broccoli and fit as much as I can in this steamer basket. And then I'm going to hit the steam button the saute button on my Instant Pot. And I'm going to let the broccoli steam for basically the rest of the time that my veggies are cooking in the oven. And that's just about the perfect amount of time to steam my broccoli, where it's not too soggy, but it's not too crisp anymore. So it's like the perfect amount of time. It's like the exact right amount of time. I don't know how that happens, but give it a try. It's I would say about 10 minutes or so, maybe 12 or so. So try out the time on your Instant Pot, or if you're using a pot on the stove, and see what works best for you. So depending on how fast you chop, will tell you, kind of how long you need to keep your broccoli in your Instant Pot or in the pot on the stove. And I use about a cup of water in the bottom of my Instant Pot when I am steaming the broccoli. All right, so here is the broccoli when it's done. You can see it's not soggy. Well, if you can see through the steam. It's still pretty crisp, not too soggy, so it's kind of the perfect doneness. And you'll see the broccoli turns brighter green once it's starting to cook. And then I'll bring out the mushrooms and the cabbage and show you those. So here's the mushrooms, and you can see they're still pretty firm. They're not too soft. And all those juices are so delicious. I put that in the bowl along with the mushrooms. All right, and then here's the cabbage. And now the cabbage is definitely still really crisp. If you like a cabbage that is cooked down more, then I would suggest probably closer to an hour in the oven at 425. But I like mine to be quite crisp. That way there's more bulk to it and it fills me up more. And I just don't like soggy cabbage unless it's like sauerkraut. So mine is still quite firm after I've cooked it. And now that I've let my veggies cool down for just a little bit, I wanted to show you this quick and easy trick for getting your veggies from the sheet pan into a bowl. If you're cooking on parchment paper, this also works with a Silpat mat. Basically, I'm just going to take the parchment paper and fold it in half. I'm just going to kind of loosen the mushrooms up off of either side, and I'm just going to turn it into a funnel and just dump all of the mushrooms into the bowl. So I don't know if you knew that trick or not yet, but that is my favorite trick for getting, big batches of roasted veggies from the baking sheet into a bowl. And I'm basically just going to do the same exact thing for the cabbage. I've got another big bowl here that I'm going to put my cabbage in. And I'm going to let it finish cooling off. It's still pretty warm, so I'll let it finish cooling off in these bowls before I put it in the oven. But I'm just going to fold up either side, turn my parchment paper into a funnel, and just dump it into the bowl. So I hope that is a tip that helps you guys out. If you guys have any other fun kitchen tips, leave them in the comments down below. I am always down for learning ways to kind of speed up my time in the kitchen. So any tips are greatly appreciated. Leave them in the comments down below. For the broccoli, I'm just going to dump it straight into a bowl. And it's actually kind of overflows this bowl. So I'm gonna eat some and then actually put some in with the mushrooms on top of the mushrooms, and they won't get soggy because they'll be on top of the mushrooms. And then you'll notice that the broccoli is the only veggie that doesn't have seasoning on it. And I actually just use the same garlic salt that I used on the other two. I just put it on as I'm serving up or plating up my food. So I use the same seasoning on all three of these. So there you have it. There is my kind of weekly veggie prep that I've been doing lately. The mushrooms won't quite last a week just because they're so delicious that everyone in the house eats them. So those I will have to make another, pound and a half, 2 pounds in another couple days. But the broccoli and the cabbage will last quite a while. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that little red subscribe button down below. And I will see you next time.